Hi, this is Andrew from Front Range CNC. Today we're talking about a customer question. They had asked us what software does, the different kinds of software, and what kind of software they need. So I thought this would be a really helpful video for a lot of people out there that are still trying to figure out when they get a machine, what is their next step. And there's virtually any CAM software will work with essentially any router product, in the US, at least to my knowledge. So generally, it's not always based on the brand. It's a lot of times based on the controller that's, the brains of what's running the machine. So, in our case, although your post processor might be called Front Range CNC Syntec, really what's happening is that it just needs to be in the same language of your controller. And the unique aspect of a controller that makes it manufacturer specific are called M codes. To get you thinking, generally the way it works is you'd have your CAD software, your design software, SolidWorks, Fusion 360, VCarve, Mosaic, really any software that you're using to create an image. So think about there's one arm of things where you're making the product and it's a visual. SketchUp would fall into this category as well. Then from your CAD, you have one extra step called CAM, and that's what you're using to actually take that design you've made and now move that into something that you can create a toolpath for. Think about your toolpath is literally just, I designed a box and I now want to tell my machine to trace that shape and then cut out my box. And so different softwares are good at different things. And generally though, you design in CAD, you toolpath in CAM, and then you take that file and you run it through what's called a post processor. And this is really an important piece. A lot of times if you need help with your post processor, or that's a bit of a confusing one, or maybe things have changed, or you have something custom, your manufacturer really is the number one person to help you with that. So you then have got your file, and that gets sent to your CNC. That could be through a network connection. It could be Wi-Fi based, could be Google Drive at the controller, it could be a USB. And in that folder is simply a text file with positions. So think about it as if you're cutting a square, maybe you've got, X, Y, 0, and then X, 0, Y, 20, and Y, 20, X, 20. And that essentially is taking your positioning of where you're going. Most software does this for you now. So, in the beginning of CNC, this was done manually, and you would have to actually know how to call and code different operations you wanted the CNC to do. Now there's virtually no hand coding of any kind for almost any product. It is helpful if you know and can recognize some of the G code and M code for troubleshooting purposes, but really for the most part, once your post processor is correct, you won't even be looking at that to troubleshoot. I think a good way to think about that post processor is it's almost like a translator. So if you're doing Fusion 360 and your post processor is in the middle, it's got to translate that to whatever your controller is. And so if you have got a FANUC controller, then your post processor has got to take that VCarve, translate it into a FANUC language, we'll just call it, and then that is what gets input into your machine to then move about those coordinates. So, as long as there's a post processor for whatever your program is to whatever the controller it is, then from there it's very simple to edit from a manufacturer perspective of changing this or that, or maybe you want the machine to end at the back of the table, or you want it to end in the middle or the front, or what have you, and all that is very easily configured. Any software can do. Let me say there's a lot of overlap between different softwares, and so take Mosaic, for instance. That's a cabinet-based software. Although Mosaic is primarily for the cabinet industry, you could use that to, say, make a triangle cutout in Baltic birch. It's just you hit a point where there's another software that might be better at that. And so if we're talking to someone about looking at a router for cabinetry, typically it's always, use Mosaic or KCD or Cabinet Vision or just whatever your preference is of cabinet software, and also use vCarve Pro along with it. You may not use them at the same time, but you will likely have projects, even just in a cabinet sense, where you will want to use them complementary to each other. And then depending on what you're cutting, if you're used to SolidWorks or Fusion 360, that's always an option as well, to use Fusion 360 to design, activate the CAM side of things, make your program there, and then export to the machine. So there's always options for that. As you're going through the sales process, you can always ask the router company if they already have an established post for whatever software you like. You can always ask them for recommendations on software that will work well or that they have experience with. For the most part, things have really changed to the point that now, as long as you have got a good understanding of how the software is communicating things, and I'm talking, let's say you want to cut, inside of the line versus on the line versus outside the line, for example, and really you'll just be selecting these pieces on your design and then saying the depth, the height, and so on. And you can always get feedback from the manufacturer in regards to the depth of cut, what type of router bit would work well for your project. We always encourage people to reach out to us if they've got a project that they want to work on, that they're not sure how to get started. We're happy for people to reach out to kind of just say, how would you cut this? What do you think for that? What fixture would you use? That kind of a thing. And, it just makes it easier for you to get started cutting without having to search the internet for everything. Hopefully that's been a little bit helpful in terms of some of the different software options. If you do have any questions about software, feel free to reach out to us. You can give us a call or go to our website and send us a contact form or an email. And we'll be happy to brainstorm with you on some questions. If you run into a problem with your post too, especially for a front range CNC machine, feel free to let us know, and we can look at that and edit things and help you get going. So great, thank you.